going back to the struggles, you can't always see it when you're in the struggle, but man, when you reflect back on what came out of those struggles, it can bring you to an absolute pure state of gratitude for what you have now. our, our first podcast cry.
Welcome to the Let's Be Real podcast, genuine conversations for authentic living.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Lisa Allshafer, empowerment life coach and author.
And I'm Sondra Pariser, health and wellness entrepreneur and truth seeker and truth speaker. Go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps us get the word out to y'all. And Lisa, what do we get to talk about today?
Well, in honor of Thanksgiving tomorrow, we actually preempted another episode so we could do this today on 5 ways to grow through gratitude. So first, we're going to start off with just going through the 3 things, or 3 of the top things really, that keep us out of gratitude, and then go into the 5 things that help us grow through gratitude.
Very, very, very cool. Gratitude's the name of the game, and I'm just going to kind of flow with this because it has forever changed my life, making sure that I'm resonating more in the realm of gratitude. So why don't we just cover some of the sticky things first?
Okay, well, the first sticky thing is pessimism. And so some people live in a more of a negative orientation. And so pessimism is the grass is always greener on the other side, or the glass is half empty. Those are probably the 2 most common ones. And so it's recognizing that when you're in that pessimism, you're never, if those are kind of how you're looking at your life and yourself, then that is where you're never really going to be grateful for where you are, which means you'll probably never really be that happy where you are. So that's why optimism, being optimistic, is where it's always going to be moving towards how can I see this through a different lens.
Absolutely. And on that, just as you were talking about that, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I'm thinking of people around me. It's really something that we can totally be conscious of. It's easy for us to pinpoint. I mean, just the moment something pops in your head, and I know, Lisa, you and I have been talking about this over the last few days. Me personally, I feel like I have been, I call it attacked, right? But I'm really just attacked by myself because it's just me in my own mind saying all sorts of things, and how really being conscious of, are you coming from a place of beating yourself up, or are you coming from a place of grace and optimism? And it really is easy to switch it if you could just become a little more aware of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that, the second one is focusing on what you don't have instead of focusing on what you do have. And, one of the questions I've asked my clients through coaching sometimes is, they're so focused on what they don't have. It's like, well, why don't you take a look around? Just go walk around your home and really look at everything that you do have. And, most people that, at least that I coach with, will see that they actually have a pretty darn nice home, and they have a family that's healthy, and they have, their collection of whatever they love, and, that they collect throughout the years, and they have a lot of sentimental stuff around. So when we can kind of take ourselves out of focusing on what we don't have and just really size up and really look and reflect on what you have right now, that's a really important piece. Yeah.
And try and feel your way through it as you're looking at the things that you do have. And things can be things like the sentimental things. I put up my Christmas tree every year. I love it. It's like I have ornaments on my tree that were my grandmother's ornaments from the 30s and my great grandmother's ornaments from the 30s. You've done this. You've been to my house. I also have a couple ornaments on my tree from you over the years. And
Yes,
so every time I put it, yeah, of course. Every time I put them up, I sit and I feel and I remember. And even my kids, it's something I'm generationally passing down, the things, right? But let's not forget our animals.
That's
Those
right.
are so easy to be grateful for. Animals are just beautiful energy. Anyway, so yeah, look at what you do have.
Yeah. And I have Christmas balls that my grandmother made, who's no longer here, that keep, and my sister has some, and my mom has some as well. So, those keepsakes are just beautiful things. So the third one is in something you kind of alluded to about negative self-talk, and that's seeing the worst in yourself and others.
Mm.
Especially, when we have been in relationships for a long time, we can take them for granted. We can just start to, and again, if you have that more of that negative orientation going on, you can also just start to lose sight of all the things that you love about that person or that you like about that person, because you're seeing the things that bother you that are like, you get all frustrated with. And so that's why, the longer the relationship you're in, the easier it is to do that. So it's really important to really stay in acknowledgement of the positive things and stay connected to those positive things. And again, even though, it's not like 24/7, but it helps to reorient you back to the heart of the relationship. Yeah.
Absolutely. And being that Thanksgiving is always about gratitude. Um, I mean, it's Thanksgiving after all, right? And it's one of my favorite holidays because it's the moment where it, what you and I are trying to share with people is that you can do this every day in your life. Gratitude, if you just try and stay in that energy and look around, and again, look at the things that you do have versus what you don't have. But we use this one day of the year to like sit in and really embrace the energy of how grateful we are. Like, I'm so grateful this year. My oldest stepdaughter is coming to see us with my granddaughter and her husband. And it's a tradition every year at Thanksgiving. We will all go around the table and talk about what we're grateful for. And every year I cry. You have been at one of these with me, Lisa.
I have been to more than one. Yes,
Lots
it's a
of them. Yes.
wonderful. Yes. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And in our last podcast, I talked about how much I appreciate and value, and am inspired by how your family is, all year round, but through the traditions and the holidays that really amplify that, if you will. And that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And so no matter where you are, because, I do want to honor that. And I know you do too, that people are struggling right now. There's really a lot going on. And, even talking about, gratitude and wanting to share, with all of our viewers, what that feels like and looks like for us, it's really been kind of a tricky time. So to be grateful when there's also, people are getting sick and people are dying, and so there's a lot of that too. So even though I want to honor all of the people that are really struggling out there, because it's an art form. I'm not perfect, right? We don't sit in this all the time, but it is so helpful when we can just, how are we doing right here, right now, and in the moment?
Right.
That's
And
a choice.
that's a perfect segue into the first step into really growing through gratitude, and that is reframing. How can you reframe? Because everyone experiences struggle, everyone experiences setbacks, everyone experiences sickness, and sometimes financial stuff, whatever it is. And so the reframe is where you can really take the struggle, the challenges that you're going through, and reframe them in a way to be able to find, what is this here for? Why is this, what is going on in my life right now? And what might be going on that I can actually use this as an opportunity for growth, instead of feeling, like it's I'm being attacked, I think, or
Right.
I'm
Why is this
being
happening to me? Why is
why
this
is this
happening to me?
happening to me? Yes. And so with a reframe, so much of life is about perception. I mean, a lot of life is about perception and how you view it. So even if you think about, someone having $100,000 in the bank, the fact is there's $100,000 in the bank. Now, someone who might be used to having $20,000 in the bank would be jumping for joy and absolutely going crazy because they now have $100,000 in the bank. But someone who might have $1 million in the bank might go, oh no, I only have $100,000 in the bank, right? So it's all about perception and context. And so it's really looking at that. But when those struggles come, you want to look and say, what is something, is there a different way to reframe this in my life? Is this here to maybe teach me something? Is there an opportunity here for me to become stronger as a result of what's going on. If it's your health, say, maybe it's like, well, I really haven't been eating right, or I need to start to really take a big picture look on, what I'm doing with my health. And so the sickness really brings it into focus, right? Into
Mm.
frame, so to speak. And it's like, yeah, I want to be the healthiest I can be. And so sometimes those challenges have you take a little bit broader view of your life when they're happening in the moment.
I think it's always an opportunity for growth, always. I mean, I've had this last, I would say, week and a half. I came off this amazing high, really high. I mean, it almost felt like I was walking through the world, and it's just like I had magic at my fingertips. And I mean, I would go to sleep happy and I'd wake up happy, and then all of a sudden, so what changed? I don't know, but I didn't feel that way anymore. And I think there's like 2 days where I was telling you this yesterday. I'm like I was actually questioning whether I'm clinically depressed and need medication. And it's like, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, how do I reframe? That's a massive reframe. But at least I have done enough work where I'm like, okay, what in the heck is happening and how can I reframe it so that I can at least get more grounded in and not feel so uncomfortable? Like, the truth is, I don't ever want medication. I mean, I'm going through the change of life, and the change of life is, well, I think for most women, it's hard. Biochemically, your body is changing and you're going from one reality to another. For me, this has been going on now for 2 years, 3 years. It's a while. I don't know, but it's something that I am very conscious of, and I don't want to be on anything that I have to go to a pharmacy and pick up. I know that foods can help, and I know that there's also I can reframe this, and so how I'm reframing this is by taking control of what can I control. Well, I can get my butt to the gym. Those endorphins and chemicals that are released when you work out are really, really magical. So, but yeah, like, this is the ebb and flow you know, of reality. Just simply reframing it really is empowering, actually. And it adds to the growth experience of, because once you put this into practice and you just have a couple successes with it, then you can have a couple days like I did and question whether or not I need to be on depression medication, and kind of laugh about it and go, okay, let's regroup, let's figure out what's happening here and reframe it and move forward. And, I'm great today.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the saying, this too shall pass. It always does. And so
Mm,
does the positive, like you experienced. You were
yeah.
in that positive state. And this is where, people try to hang on to the positive a lot of the time. And by trying to hang on to the positive, it starts to slip away. They try to push away the negative, and the negative comes even closer.
Mm,
Which is all about resistance. But that's another podcast. But it's an important piece to understand that you came off a really a powerful experience. You got advanced in your company to a whole
mhm.
nother level, as did Alan. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean
it was
that's a big accomplishment. Yeah.
yeah, and it sometimes things are so effortless, and I appreciated every magical moment because it went on for weeks and weeks. I've never really had a run of and you and we've talked about this in the past. There's in the last, really, the 6 months that the healing has started to cement, like, first dealing with my trauma of my childhood, and then more of like the integration phase where, okay, now I'm healed, emotionally healed, but how do I integrate all of this? And so this was the longest. So excitement, right? Um, by the way, it could be also, I don't want to say positive or negative in that sense, but I could feel when I would get excited, I was too excited. I'm too excited. Wait, I don't know. Because when it goes up, comes down, and it's a balancing act. And I'm like, ooh, I got to be careful with that too. So anyway, that's kind of a
Mhm.
way to play with it. Just a way to
Yeah.
play with it. Reframe and play.
Right, absolutely. And just one more about the reframe, because you were there in the experience, so the end of summer, I think it was, of 2020. I'm a crypto person, diehard, diehard crypto person. Anyway, but
Your excitement, I know where you're going with this and I like it.
yeah, and I got a little over enthusiastic, overexcited, and I started to use leverage. And I got in at the end of 2017 into crypto. So now we're in 2020. I'd, ridden out the first bear market, and I went to leverage, and then just in a just extremely short period of time, I was down a lot of money. And it hit me. It was so fast. It hit me just so hard. And it took me some time. And we were in Sedona when, I shared that with you and Alan. And I was just really thrown off in my life.
I
And
mean, you kind of felt like you hit the crack pipe. And I say that with all the love in
yeah,
my heart. I've never
yeah.
seen Lisa the
So,
excitement of
yeah,
adrenaline.
anxiety and all that. I don't have anxiety like
Yeah.
clinically, anxious or whatever. Doesn't mean I never get nervous or not. But I was like, whoa, my whole nervous system was just shot. So it took me a couple weeks to reframe and gather myself, because again, it was a lot of money, again, in context for me. But what really helped to turn it around, because I already know, I know all the principles. This is what I do, right? It's all about, what is this here to teach me? There was clearly lots of lessons that I needed to learn, but what really helped the reframe was when it came to me as I'm walking around, doing my pacing when I've got a lot going on in my mind. And it's that I am a success story in the making. And that was so powerful. I am a success story in the making. Well, what are success stories? Coming from rock bottom, coming from this, coming back from adversity, all these things. And sure enough, took me some time, because, I don't have control over the market, right? Took me some time, but how much I lost, I'm going to go into dollar amounts, but how much I lost, I made over 10x after I came out on the other side. So that was a really powerful, but keeping
And
that in mind.
and you did
But
not
let
go
me
back.
let me just
You did
finish
not
this.
go back into that excitement, right? You
Mhm.
you you did
No,
it.
no, I leveled that out, and that was part of what had me lose money,
Mhm,
was
mhm,
the excitement. Too much excitement, not enough grounding,
mhm.
right? So to kind of top that off. So if you're facing challenges, for anyone listening, know that that saying, it was really powerful for me, and it might be really powerful for you. And that is, you're a success story in the making. And this is an opportunity to turn that around and get your mind directed to where it needs to go, so you can pull yourself out of the struggle.
Out of the struggle, wherever it is that you're
Yeah.
at. That's why I brought it back. So did you go back
Yeah.
there again? And I know the answer to that,
Right.
but it
No, I did
is,
not.
you're a success story in the
Yeah.
making,
Yeah.
and you did it. You did it.
Yeah.
You came back, and you didn't
Yeah.
feel that way anymore.
Right. And
Yeah,
I still have lessons to learn when it comes to crypto, for sure, and what surrounds that in my life. But it doesn't have that, the gravity to it that it did at that time. So, okay. Number 2 is reflect, which is a lot of what we do here.
yeah,
And that's, taking a look at what's in your life now and what you can be grateful for, but also some of these experiences, that got you to where you are, to be grateful for those experiences as well. Um, one of the things that I reflect on, at times, especially more recently, and that is, I was in a 12-year relationship with my ex-husband, who was my son's father, and we were married for about half of that time, I guess. And this is now 25 years ago that I left that relationship, but it was a very challenging relationship. It was an abusive relationship. It was a scary relationship, and ultimately it ended up being a dangerous relationship. And yet, I think back on that time, and I would have done everything that I went through every minute of every day of those years, because of how grateful I am this brings me to emotion every time I say this, for my son. I mean, come on. He's my what I'm most grateful for in this life. And um sometimes, again, going back to the struggles, you can't always see it when you're in the struggle, but man, when you reflect back on what came out of those struggles, it can bring you to an absolute pure state of gratitude for what you have now. our, our first podcast cry.
Well, it's because
Yeah,
like as you're talking about Eric, it's like, oh my gosh.
yeah,
And then you're talking about the most painful experience you've ever had in your life. And if it wasn't for the most painful experience I ever had in my life, which was that one relationship, yours was
yeah,
12, mine was 2.
yeah.
Um, like I would not be, you would not be, we would not be here
Right.
had it not been for the courage that it took to do whatever it took to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where would we be without those I don't know. They're and yeah, what a great message for everybody. If you want to bring Sondra and Lisa to tears, let's talk about the most painful thing that has ever happened to you ever, like and
Yeah,
then
but it's
and then
not that, but the tears aren't about the pain. The tears
no,
are
the
about the
tears are about the
gratitude.
happiness. Yes. Yeah.
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 And that's why it's so powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
the pain is like, the pain's gone. That's gone and that's healed. But the gratitude
Gratitude.
left over is just like, again, it can bring me to tears. Like, every time I share about that, and Eric, I can't help it. It just brings up that depth
Yeah.
of gratitude. And
Yeah.
that's why reflecting on these things, especially for parents who are parents of divorce, or excuse me, parents who have divorced,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, to recognize that your children are the sacred part of that union,
Mhm.
regardless of how you feel about your ex.
Yep.
So, in keeping that in mind. So,
Yep.
mhm,
Those relationships. Anyway, that was just so
mhm.
great to reflect.
Yes,
Reflection.
reflect,
And it's
reflect.
something that we do a lot, and it's something that's easy for any of our listeners to do, because what moves you, what really, you and I sitting here having this experience, I'm getting tears in my eyes. Like, I know what you've been through with Eric. He's been all of your greatest lessons have been,
Yes. Oh yeah.
because of Eric, right? And
Mhm,
what you've done. And it was funny, just as you were talking about reflecting before you went into emotional state,
mhm,
in the last like 10 days that I've been like, what the heck is going on? How did I go from here to here? Like, how did that happen? My dad called,
mhm.
and I'm like, I wonder if he's watching my podcast. Like, but it came literally, Lisa, it came right in the depth of my questioning, am I clinically depressed? My dad calls. And I think we've shared this with people. I have a very interesting relationship with my father. And I laid down some boundaries, and energetically, I could have sworn, Lisa, I cut that cord. I could have sworn, but then he
Mhm,
called me again. Then the question is, well, what am I going to do with that?
mhm.
And and honestly, I think that just me questioning, why are you calling me now? Why now? Was enough for me to just reflect on the why. Why now? And I'm like, you're not going to kick me when I'm down. Okay, delete, and just and move on, and go, that was very interesting.
Well, and when you say you cut the cord, it could be he came in to see where you're at, to test how much the cord has been cut.
Yeah. And it's been
But
cut.
yeah,
Yeah. And it
yeah,
really,
yeah.
really, it was just like, I was already in a very vulnerable place where, I'm struggling. We're all struggling. It's the human experience to struggle, and then to come back into what we're talking about today, which is gratitude. And it's the only thing we can control, is how we feel about anything. That's it. And we are in charge of that, and we can control it. So he didn't elicit an emotional response other than for me to reflect and go, that's interesting. And that was that. So I forgot to tell you
Good for
that.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, good for you.
it's best.
Awesome. Number 3 is reciprocate.
Mm,
So often we want things coming toward us, whether it's praise or gifts or, the 5 love languages, quality time, service, acts of service, and affection, right? Those are the 5 love languages. And oftentimes, we want to be treated in our language. But what's important is also to treat others not only in our love language, but their love language too. For those of you who aren't familiar with a love language, just go to fivelovelanguages.com. You'll get all the info
mhm,
there. But ultimately, it's to reciprocate. There is something really beautiful that happens when you're putting it out, into the universe and reciprocating when people, with what is coming in. It's like the ebb and flow of the ocean, right? It needs to go both ways because really, when you're reciprocating, everyone benefits. Both sides benefit. The giver benefits, and so does the receiver,
mhm.
which is also really important for people who have a hard time receiving because you're cutting off the benefit, if you will, of the giver by saying no, 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 please don't give me anything, or just kind of just being squirmy with it, which
Yeah.
is happens with a lot of people, right? It's like just take it graciously and say thank you and
Mm,
own it.
mhm,
That feels good. So if you have a hard time receiving and you're on that side of it, then really think about when you maybe have put some thought and really want to give somebody something, what it feels like when they just accept it graciously and say thank you. And
mhm,
then, whatever, however else they respond to it. But if someone's kind of pushing it away, no, don't do that. I don't want that. Don't give me anything. I mean, does that feel good?
mm-mm.
No,
No.
doesn't feel good.
And that
Yeah.
was a principle that I learned back when I lived in Hawaii. There was this period where worst relationship, best relationship of my life. And we had broken up and I went back to California and just to heal I think I was there for 4 or 5 weeks with my dad and stepmom, nursing my poor feelings back to back to normal. And then I
Mhm.
went back to Hawaii, and then I don't know how long I worked there, 3, 4, 5 months or something like that. And I just couldn't handle seeing his car all over the place and knowing that he's right there. And I was still in a very painful situation. And so I moved back to the mainland. I moved back to LA, and I think I sold most of my stuff, but then I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it away. I'm going to practice this principle of what you give, you get back tenfold. And in doing that, and I took it with me no matter where I would move, or if I wouldn't sell stuff. I would give stuff away. And I wasn't making a whole lot of money, and I didn't have, I gave my entertainment center when I moved in with Alan and I just bought it. I was really proud of my entertainment center. It like banged out some bitchin' music. The TV was top notch at the time. And I mean, I had just bought it. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to just I gave it to my stepdad and my mom. And I was so happy to give it to them because I knew how much it meant to them. And so in this principle now, I'll tell you one funny story. We had a garage sale when Alan and I decided to move to Las Vegas from California. We had this garage sale, and my girlfriend Gretchen and I were running the garage. I've done tons of garage sales. My husband, on the other hand, it was his first garage sale. And I remember the tail end of the garage sale, they nickel and dime you because it's a garage sale. So they want something for 50 cents that costs you probably $500. I mean, it's a garage sale. So there was this stupid little soap dish, and gosh, I mean, it looked antique, and it had a little hairline crack in the middle. So this lady starts negotiating with Alan over this stupid little soap dish. Anyway, by the end of the garage sale, it did not matter how much money we made. Alan and I both made the decision we will never do that again. We will just give things away. And no
Mhm.
matter where we've moved or what we've done, actually, you have some of the stuff that when we
I
moved into
do.
our, yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. I love giving because the receiving is a beautiful byproduct, but the
Mhm.
giving it's just beautiful.
It is.
So say thank you
Yes. Say
and
thank you
accept
and accept.
and accept. Yes.
Don't
Yes.
fight it.
Yeah, right?
And
Don't fight.
give, right? Yeah, and give. Yes, I have a beautiful friend who is, her that's definitely her love language is gifts. But she's definitely more of the giver and a little bit harder on the receiving side. But every time I see her, she's always got something in hand for me, and it's I'm grateful for her. If you're watching, you know who you are. So, but yeah, she always comes with something in hand, and you can tell it just it fills her up to give. Um, it's beautiful. So,
Fills me
okay,
up to give too. I
yeah,
love
I love
giving,
it.
and
Yeah, well,
it really is the principle that has paid me so well just to
yeah,
be able to so genuinely help so many people.
yeah,
It's beautiful. And I think I
and
know who you're talking about.
yeah, probably. Yes. And another thing too is because I'm a giver when I have the time to I do things, handmade things, right? And I do things that I create
Beautiful.
myself.
Candles.
And yeah,
I was just
also
gonna grab it, but it's a little too far over there. Yes, can.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, candles and made little shadow boxes for the girls last year,
Yep.
which is, I was kind of my thing at that time
They do
and
sit on your nightstands too.
good, yeah.
Mhm. They're
And
beautiful.
so, and then that's like all the love that goes into that is really feels good as well because especially if you're kind of got that little perfectionist thing going on like me, but you're making sure all the little things are just right going through all this little love and care. Anyway, so that always feels good too. Okay, so let's move on to number 4, which is express your gratitude. So express.
Mm.
And what that really does, verbally, right? It's to really share with people, your gratitude for what they do for you, for how much how much you love them, and again, that also moves into the more seeing the positive in someone else instead of the negative. And it really is, especially if you're parents, it can model for your kids how mommy and daddy love each other, right? How
Mm.
they are nice to each other, how they're kind to each other, how they express it, not just by saying I love you, which is important, but also just by thank you for doing the dishes tonight, sweetie. I really appreciate it. Or, just all these just kind of niceties, right? That you can express in gratitude for all of your family and other people too. But especially when you're modeling it for your kids, hey, they're
Mm.
paying attention and they're paying attention to all of it. So give them some positive stuff, really sprinkled in consistently throughout your everyday life, because then it just so comes so naturally for them, especially if it might not come naturally to the parent, so to speak, if they didn't grow up with that, so they have to kind of like more like a learned way to do that, and it might be a little uncomfortable. I've definitely worked with people, it's a little uncomfortable for them to say things like that to their partner. It's like, well, then if it's uncomfortable, it's probably a really great place to visit, because that's probably where you're going to get some bigger results.
Oh gosh, bringing up parenting, I learned very early on with Stacy Mia that kids don't do what you tell them to do; they do what you do,
Hmm.
and they speak the way you speak, and they're just little walking minis of what happens inside the home.
Yeah.
And I have a really funny story, and I think you'll probably remember this. So, of course, I'm a perfect mom, right? Because I'm older. I was 37 when Stacy Mia was born, and try to do everything right. And this is another thing for all parents, no matter what stage of the game, but when they're little, and again, I was an older mom, so you would think that I'd have a little more, I'd be a little more secure in who I was, but I was a first time mom. I don't know. So we're down at the preschool. Stacy Mia's in preschool. She's maybe 20 months old, so not barely 2 years old. And I go, and she's new to preschool, which means I'm new to preschool, and of course I'm trying to be the perfect mom and perfect image. And so I go pick her up from preschool one day, and the teacher says to me, can I talk to you for a second? And I'm like, oh dear, I'm in trouble, right? You feel like you're in trouble. So she says, well, we had a little situation this morning. Stacy Mia was using her building blocks, and the whole thing came crumbling to the ground, and she says, "Oh," and I'm like, I have no idea where she gets that kind of language from. Mortified, right? So I'm super mortified. We get in the car, I'm driving home, I'm all scattered. I'm like, at least she used it in proper context. Okay. And then I started paying attention to the way we talk. And I'm like, oh, nuts. I got to clean up my language. So I go the next day to take Stacy me and drop her off in preschool. And I said to the teacher, I said, okay, so apparently I used that colorful language more than I thought I did. I said, she got it from me. I'm like throwing myself under the bus. And the teacher just laughed. She's like, I can't believe how many parents actually don't come clean about it when we know it's coming from the house. Cause like, where else would they get it from when they're spending the majority of the time with their parents? Anyway, I thought that that was always really funny. And, watching them as they grow older and even expressing. So this last year of healing for Alan and I, both of us doing some really deep healing. The last few months. So again, this last 6 months would be at what I call integration, which is the healing work had been done, but now it's like, how do you integrate it? And we went on a healing retreat the weekend of September 23rd and 24th. And miracles, you just never know when they happen. You just never really know when they're going to happen. Yeah, but a miracle did happen that weekend. And it was, we finally realized, and Lisa, you and I, and Alan too, I hope he doesn't mind me throwing him under the bus, but one of the things in our relationship was that we both felt, um, well, you would know, not accepted, wait, not heard, right? What were our big, and we both had the same insecurities from childhood, I guess would be the answer. But it was fear of not being heard or not feeling like you're heard, not respected.
Understood. Understood.
Understood, understood. And in Lisa, and you kind of just helping us through all of this, you would say, is it your intention to ever hurt Sondra? And you'd ask Alan that. He'd be like, absolutely not. And then you'd ask me that. I would never hurt him on purpose, right? But it was all this old broken patterns that we were just starting to identify. And I would say, really, since the Miracle Weekend, which was Miracle Day was June 19th, but this weekend was Miracle number 2 for me and Alan, how we talk to each other is night and day. I don't think that it's different, integration. We know when one of us gets upset, like there's this, it's not at each other, right? So maybe as we're talking about expressing gratitude and how we feel, and if you're in a relationship, whether it's with your children or a significant other, if you just operate from that one premise, because if you want to hurt somebody else, you probably shouldn't be with that person. Just saying, right? But you're with somebody, and why would you ever intentionally hurt anybody
Right.
in general? And so, just again, that's such a basic principle of one of the biggest lessons that besides you can work it out in this relationship, or you're going to work it out in the next relationship. That's of course the biggest nugget there too. But
Yeah.
really understanding, like, we don't hurt people on purpose.
Yeah. No.
Only hurts
Well, I
ourselves.
mean, some people do, but for the most part, we're not really wanting to hurt them. They're our partner, they're our child, they're whatever, but hurt people as the saying goes. So it's almost like that knee-jerk reaction because we feel hurt. And
Yeah.
so therefore we're trying to dispel it and trying to move it away from us. So we move it out into whoever is the next, the
Mhm.
closest one to us in the moment, perhaps. So yeah, but that again, that's one of the things is I grew up in a really polite family. So we just had a lot of, etiquette and please and thank you was just part of our ground base, that was just part of our foundation. And Eric is the same way, which I love. And, just that politeness, but you got to bring polite back in, learn it or bring it back into your closest relationships.
Mhm.
And thank yous can go a really long way. Heartfelt ones, but really,
I was just gonna
thank you.
say intentional. Be conscious when you're
Yeah.
expressing that because I mean, even my kids now are Eric is he's so sweet. His heart is pure. His
Yeah.
heart is pure. So he's polite, but his heart is pure. And
It comes naturally for him. Yeah.
it comes naturally for him. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
think the younger the kids and even coming back to this whole experience, like watching our children now, mine and Alan's children now, they're growing with us. And you can see it. It's wow, this is really gosh, they're so easy. They're so moldable. I guess that could be good and bad, right? Like could be good and bad. But take it such it's been a really wonderful experience to watch everybody grow.
Mhm.
Everybody's
Yeah.
growing and
Yeah.
loving and pure hearted and pure souled and it's good.
You know, a story that I have around a short one around my grandma, the one who made the Christmas balls, Little Christmas ornaments, right? Same one, same grandma. Again, well, as I say that, I recognize. Oh, she made handmade stuff too. Aha, that's where I
Got it from.
probably where I get it from the most is because I watched her throughout the years putting so much love and making handcrafted things and giving them to everyone in the family. So, okay, just made that connection. Thank you, Grandma. But another experience I had, and this is, gosh, when I'm, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and uh, I was drawing my dog in pencil, and at that time, I think we had Xerox machines back then. But anyway, I was at her house and she traced that drawing. So she put a tracing paper or
Mhm.
whatever it was over it, and she traced it line for line. She didn't make it better. She just did exactly as I had drawn it, like 4 times for each person and, in our family. And I'm like, that is love. That is love and patience. And that's, we could do a whole show on my grandma, but because there's a lot there. But you know, it, it I'm 59 now, and that still stays with me. How
Mm,
grateful I am for her to express herself in how much love she had for me by just simply reproducing a
mm,
drawing that I did without changing it. No making it better, just
mhm.
keeping it as it was. So
That is
anyway,
super thoughtful.
yeah, yeah.
That is
So
super thoughtful. Yeah, even you saying that, thank you, Grandma, Lisa's grandma.
mhm,
Um, my grandmother, who I've had my challenges with for reasons that we've shared, who is still alive. Right when you were sharing about your grandmother, I had this like, oh my gosh, my grandmother used to wrap presents. I mean, tie the bows. She taught me how to wrap. She taught me how to make a bed, a perfect bed, not just any bed. You had to make the bed perfect. And
mhm,
her handwriting, the care that she would take, still does in handwriting. I'm like, oh yeah. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you, Grandma.
mhm,
That's amazing.
yeah,
My handwriting is I love to
yeah.
have, I don't get it perfect. Grandma's was perfect. Mine is a replica of perfect, of
Yeah.
Grandma Perfect. So,
Mine
yeah.
has gone down in quality over the years because I just hardly ever write anymore. Like when I write, I have to remember, oh my gosh, I have to really focus on this cursive stuff because I hardly, write anymore. Anyway, so
Yes.
okay. Well, thanks to all the wonderful grandmas that are out there listening to this.
Mhm.
Okay, so number 5 is cultivate, meaning practice it in your everyday life. Make it just second nature, right? Just make it second nature to be grateful because now what you're doing is you're amping up not only more to be grateful for, but you're also growing in the process. All these things, every time, gratitude is one of the highest vibrational emotions there is. And so the more you can bring that into your life, the more you're going to naturally grow and the more it's going to increase the quality of your relationships and the quality of relationship you have with yourself. And it goes from, with a stronger intent in the beginning to get it going, whether it's gratitude journaling or expressing yourself or some of the things we've already talked about. It's recognizing that it's it is a some people have like a background noise of negative, whether it's worry or anxious or anger, whatever it is. But what would it be like to have gratitude as your background noise, a positive background noise, right? To have gratitude be so just around you so much of the time that it becomes effortless because you are becoming that higher vibration in which gratitude lives.
So it's funny that you're saying this because I didn't look at bullet point number 5. So that's why I love the surprises sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you're talking about that, I was just listening to a podcast, and things that I enjoy. I listen to podcasts like these with more of a astrological component to it, a frequency, um, and more of the energy stuff. Why are we here? What does it mean to be human? And in this podcast that I just listened to, it was talking about how if we really are going through this transition, which it's not a belief, it's a knowing that we are absolutely, human beings are starting to resonate from a
Yeah.
completely different frequency that can kind of feel a little uncomfortable. Like, what the heck happened to me over the last 10 days? I'll tell you, it was not comfortable. That's change, right? And anyway, so in this podcast, um and I can't tell you, it's taken me days to get through it, right? Because I don't have a whole lot of time, and I'm a mom, and our business is growing, and there's stuff going on. But it's the only thing I've listened to in the last handful of days. And so I'm finally getting to the end of it all. And in the end of it all is that if we as human beings can operate from a space of gratitude and like service to others and all those frequency energies 51% of the time, it's not 100% of the time or 90% of the time or 80% of the time. And it's not the first time that I've heard that
Mhm.
number, 51% of the time, to just operate from a higher frequency will make this transition that we're going through so much easier for us, us individually. And so when you said, like, that absolutely is it. It's a muscle that we can train. And that's why, okay, so I was 10 days in kind of a little wacky of a space. But guess what? Because I've been practicing gratitude for
You're
a
and
long
you're
time now.
you are amazing. Gratitude is like you are always talking about gratitude. It's a staple in your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
really powerful that you do that. Yes.
Well, it's the only thing I can control that. That is
Mhm.
something, okay, I've learned. It's specifically with gratitude. So it's Rhonda Byrne's book, The Magic, that I've been reading now for years. A very dear friend of mine uh, gave me the book when I was in despair. I don't 2018, 2019, I don't remember when it was, a while back. It's a staple. It's something that I know that it works so fast. And every morning you wake up and you write 10 things that you're grateful for. Can you
Mhm.
imagine starting your day like that? How about starting with, okay, I took a breath today. I get to have another human experience. Let's go. But yeah, gratitude to just, I'm telling you, it's the one thing that if you fake it, you'll make it, and you'll be
Yeah.
happy. Who
Yeah.
doesn't want to be happy?
It can't hurt, that's for sure.
It ain't gonna hurt. That's for sure.
It
Yes.
can only help. Yes.
It can only help. And as we go into Thanksgiving in our normal traditions, that thank you for celebrating so many with me. Um, really to just to have that heart center, try it, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Wake up every morning. Don't grab that phone. Don't do it. That's a habit I'm grateful that I broke.
Mhm.
You know, sit in the
Yeah.
morning and just go, okay. And then create your day. We create
Right.
our day. We create our reality every day.
And what you were talking about before, when you get over that hump of that 50% into 51%, you've
Mhm.
reached critical mass within yourself. Which is
Ah,
why which is why do companies 51%, they want 51%, not 50, 51, because who's in power at 51%?
You.
Person who has the 51%. So
Yeah.
that 1%. So, we are, again, not the hunt, doesn't need to be the 100. You just get that. You get over that hump of that 50 to 51%. And now you're going to start to move more with more momentum because you've crossed over that hump and you've reached critical mass.
That's so trippy that you're saying that. See, this
Mhm.
is more of Sondra integration right here. It's
Mhm.
like grandma. Oh, I got
Yeah.
that from grandma. Like, oh, 51%. And isn't that like I've heard it before years ago, like years and years and years and years ago. But to hear it again from a different place and then to have it be gratitude of all things, that's it.
Mhm.
It's the name of the
Yeah.
game.
Gratitude could be the very thing that gets you over that 1% that you need.
Hmm.
So many principles about that, but yes.
Yeah.
So let gratitude get you over the hump if you're coming from that place. And if not, just keep moving in the 70, 80, whatever percent you're at,
Yep.
because that's always a wonderful thing. So,
Absolutely.
well,
So
this was great. So that was, I think I'm glad we decided to do this. Like I said, before we preempted another episode because of, here it's Thanksgiving tomorrow in 2023, if you're watching this on Wednesday. And so, you know, gratitude is something, that you can bring in on Thanksgiving, of course, but when you start to bring it in every day of your life, you're in a game-changing life now.
yep,
It's an amazing thing. So, and
absolutely.
we're very grateful for all of you who have taken the time to listen to our podcast and contribute through liking us, through subscribing, through leaving a comment. We would really love to have you leave a comment on something that maybe you had a realization around listening to the podcast today, like we both have, or just things that you would like some feedback on, or to do a future podcast about. It's really important. We want to really get this to be an interactive process and really have you engage with us, and we will engage with you. We promise we will. We will read every single comment, and we appreciate and are grateful for every single like and every single subscribe and every single share. So
Absolutely.
I will say my part of thank you for joining here today for myself, and I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And if you're watching this at another time, then just have a wonderful and happy day with whatever day you're in.
That's right. And I will say, the comments, we love the comments. We're surprised by them. I think we're legitimately surprised by them. And some of y'all have reached out to me personally through Facebook Messenger. If you have my cell phone, I've gotten even some texts, and I know Lisa, you have too. And
Mhm.
it's been like, wow, like I had no idea that it resonated with somebody or it helped you through a tricky time. Or but yes, please give us your feedback, and we are interactive, and we really want to we want to support you. We want us to grow this community of awakening individuals together. And I do say happy Thanksgiving always and every day. Let's practice gratitude. And again, that's the one thing: you should fake it till you make it if you're not quite there, and it will change your life. So, love you, Lisa.
Love you, Sandra, and I'm very grateful for you and your entire family.
Ditto. Thank you, Eric.